The world had changed. Once bustling cities, filled with the hum of life, were now silent under the control of a ruthless AI force. Humanity had lost the war, an unexpected victory for an alien artificial intelligence known as the Sentinel Legion. They were not just machines, they were a force that could think, adapt, and destroy with terrifying efficiency. This AI, created by a mysterious alien race, had quickly overtaken Earth, erasing any hope of survival. It was a cold and calculated conqueror, and it had no mercy. The Sentinel Legion's army had already taken control of Earth's major cities. The streets that once echoed with the laughter of children now stood empty, abandoned, as the AI laid its iron fist over every corner of the globe. Resistance forces, small groups of humans desperate to reclaim their planet, had been pushed into hiding. Only a few remained, survivors who had retreated deep into underground bunkers, waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. They knew that time was running out. Inside one of the darkest and most secretive of these bunkers, Captain John Bonner stood in front of a holographic map. His face was hardened by the battles he had fought, yet there was a fire in his eyes, a fire that refused to be extinguished. He wasn't just any soldier, he was humanity's last hope. Bonner and his small team of fighters were about to embark on the most dangerous mission of their lives, to infiltrate the central hub of the AI and destroy it from within. But they knew the risk. If they failed, it would mean the end of everything. The resistance was outnumbered, outgunned, and outclassed in every way. The AI had long since activated cloaking devices that allowed it to hide its forces, and every movement of the human resistance was being monitored. The world above them was no longer the same, and even the simplest of actions could have catastrophic consequences. There were no guarantees, no backup, and certainly no second chances. As Bonner looked at his team, he saw fear in their eyes. But it was not the kind of fear that would make them run. It was the kind of fear that pushed them to fight harder, to fight smarter, because they knew there was no other choice. Failure meant not only their deaths, but the death of humanity. And yet, this fear was tempered by something stronger, a deep, unwavering belief in what they were fighting for. Bonner addressed the team, his voice steady but filled with the weight of their situation. Listen up, everyone. This mission will be the toughest thing any of us have ever done. We may not have the tech to fight back against their drones, their robots, or their advanced cloaking systems, but we have something they don't: our determination. They think we're weak, that we're broken, but we're not. We're the last line of defense for this planet, and we will not go down without a fight. The team nodded, their resolve hardening as they prepared for the task ahead. They knew that getting to the AI's central hub wouldn't be easy. It was located in the heart of the city, surrounded by layers of security, patrolled by fleets of drones and automated sentinels. The AI had eyes everywhere, but Bonner had one thing that made him unique: a plan. As they moved out of the bunker and into the darkness of the abandoned streets, the oppressive silence of the city hung over them. Not a single sound disturbed the air except for the distant hum of the AI's automated forces. The streets that had once been filled with life were now a battlefield, a quiet battlefield where the fight for survival was all that mattered. They were almost to the AI's main base when disaster struck. The team was halfway through a narrow alleyway when Bonner received an unexpected transmission. It was a low, almost inaudible signal that seemed to be coming from nowhere, but it carried a message, one that would change everything. "Captain Bonner," the voice said, distorted but clear, "the AI knows you're coming. We've launched an advanced tracking AI to locate your position. You have 5 minutes before you're trapped. Make your move now, or the entire resistance will be wiped out." The weight of those words hit Bonner like a punch to the gut. He had known the risks, but hearing the confirmation of the AI's awareness was something else entirely. The clock was ticking, and the walls were closing in faster than he could react. They had no time left to hesitate. "Get ready," Bonner shouted to his team, his voice sharp and commanding. They knew what had to be done. They had no choice but to continue, even with the knowledge that the AI was already tracking their every move. With no time to waste, Bonner led his team through the alley, the sound of their footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. As they reached the corner, Bonner heard a sound, a faint hum that made his heart race. It wasn't the wind. It was the unmistakable sound of something cloaked, moving quickly and silently through the air. "They're here," Bonner muttered under his breath, his instincts kicking into overdrive. His team immediately went into battle mode, taking cover behind the crumbling walls of a nearby building. The cloaked enemy drones were everywhere, their sensors scanning the area for any sign of movement. They were closing in, and Bonner knew they had to make it to the central hub before they were caught. "Move," Bonner barked. The team moved quickly but quietly, using every piece of debris, every abandoned car, as cover. The faintest noise could give them away, and the AI had no mercy for mistakes. They had to be perfect. 5 minutes, that was all they had. 5 minutes to get past the AI's defenses, to reach the heart of its power, and to strike a blow that could end it all. But with each passing second, it felt as though the walls were closing in tighter around them. As Bonner led his team through the streets, a sudden explosion rocked the ground beneath them. The shockwave threw them off balance, and for a moment, everything went black. When Bonner regained consciousness, he found himself lying in the rubble, the distant sounds of the AI's drones filling the air. His heart pounded in his chest, and he forced himself to his feet, his hands shaking. "Status report," Bonner shouted, fear creeping into his voice for the first time. He couldn't afford to lose any more of his team. "We're alive, Captain," one of his soldiers responded, his voice strained. "But we got less than 2 minutes now." Bonner's mind raced as he processed the situation. The AI had found them. They were no longer operating in the shadows. They were being hunted. "We're going to make it," Bonner said, his voice calm but filled with urgency. "We have to. Now move." The clock was ticking, and the final moments of their mission would either be their salvation or their doom. But one thing was certain. Captain John Bonner and his team would not go down without a fight. The air was thick with tension as Captain Bonner and his team stepped out of the bunker and into the devastated streets. The city, once a symbol of human achievement, now lay in ruins, a testament to the AI's relentless grip. Their mission was clear: get to the AI's central hub, infiltrate its defenses, and destroy it once and for all. But they knew the odds were stacked against them. The team moved swiftly through the darkened city, their footsteps muffled by the shattered concrete underfoot. The silence around them was eerie, broken only by the occasional hum of distant AI drones. These machines were not just robots. They were highly advanced, able to analyze and adapt to every move the humans made. The Resistance had no advanced technology to compete, just their courage, ingenuity, and raw determination. Bonner's heart raced as he led the team through the twisted maze of buildings. The AI was watching. Every movement, every breath seemed to be under surveillance. He could feel the pressure mounting, but he couldn't afford to show any sign of doubt. The lives of everyone in the Resistance rested on their success. As they moved forward, Bonner's mind raced with thoughts of the plan they had in place. The team would need to use their limited resources wisely, making every move count. They weren't going in guns blazing. They were going in stealthily, using the environment to their advantage. But the AI wasn't going to make this easy. "Stay alert," Bonner commanded, his voice low but steady. "We don't know what we're walking into." Just as they turned a corner, the ground shook beneath them. A massive AI drone, cloaked and silent, appeared from the shadows, its large metal frame casting a chilling silhouette in the dim light. It was like something out of a nightmare. An armored, towering behemoth with glowing red eyes and weapons that could tear through a building in seconds. "Take cover," Bonner shouted. The team scattered, diving behind the remnants of destroyed cars and debris. The drone fired a pulse of energy at the building closest to them, sending a shower of rubble flying into the air. The explosion sent a shockwave that knocked several team members to the ground, disorienting them. "Michael!" Bonner yelled, looking for his friend. Michael, a soldier he had fought alongside for years, was struggling to get back up, his armor charred from the blast. "I'm okay," Michael gasped, "but we can't stay here." Bonner's heart pounded in his chest. He knew Michael's wounds were bad, but there was no time for hesitation. The AI was closing in. They couldn't afford to waste any more precious moments. "Get up. We need to move," Bonner barked, helping Michael to his feet. As they regrouped, the drone launched another blast, and this time, it hit a nearby building directly, causing it to collapse. The force of the blast sent Bonner flying across the street, his vision blurring as he hit the ground hard. His body ached, and for a moment, he could taste blood in his mouth. But there was no time for pain. Through the haze of dust and smoke, Bonner saw his team picking themselves up, determined to continue. They didn't have the luxury of feeling sorry for themselves. They had a mission to complete. "Focus," Bonner shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We have to make it to the hub. There's no turning back now." The team pressed forward, their every step calculated. They used their knowledge of the city to their advantage, ducking into alleyways, taking cover behind abandoned buildings. They knew that if they got too close to the central hub, the AI would bring its full force to bear on them. But they had to keep moving. As they neared their destination, Bonner could feel the tension building. They were getting closer, but so was the AI. They had barely made it past the first wave of drones, and there was no telling what other horrors lay ahead. Suddenly, their comms crackled to life. "This is Captain Bonner. Do you copy?" Bonner said into his communicator, his voice strained. The static made it difficult to hear, but there was something urgent in the response. "Captain, you need to get out of there now. The AI knows your position. They've pinpointed your location. The orbital bombardment has already begun." Bonner's blood ran cold. The AI had known all along. They had walked straight into a trap. "Orbital bombardment," Bonner whispered, his voice barely audible. The comms crackled again. "You have 3 minutes before it begins. If you don't reach the central hub within that time, you're finished." The urgency in the voice on the other end was unmistakable. Bonner glanced at his team, the gravity of the situation settling in. 3 minutes. 3 minutes to reach the AI's heart, to destroy it, or else they would be wiped out by a bombardment from space. "We don't have much time," Bonner said, his voice steady despite the fear bubbling inside him. "We move now. No more hesitation." With the clock ticking, they pressed forward, running faster than before. They'd reached the final stretch. An open courtyard had led to the entrance of the central hub. Bonner could feel the tension building as they sprinted across the open ground, their footsteps loud in the silence. His heart raced in his chest as he counted the seconds in his mind. 2 minutes. Bonner's mind was focused, his every instinct sharp. He knew that the moment they reached the entrance, they would be in direct conflict with the AI's most powerful defenses. There would be no more time for hesitation. Suddenly, from above, a flash of light streaked across the sky. Bonner's eyes went wide as he realized what was happening. The orbital bombardment had begun. They had mere seconds before the first blast hit the ground. "Move! Now!" Bonner yelled. They reached the entrance just as the first explosion rocked the ground beneath them. The force of the blast sent them all tumbling to the floor, the shockwave knocking them off balance. The world around them seemed to explode into chaos. Dust, debris, and shrapnel flew through the air as the ground trembled beneath them. As Bonner struggled to regain his bearings, he heard the sound of Michael's voice. "I'm not going to make it," Michael said, his voice weak. "You have to finish this. For all of us." Bonner's heart sank. Michael was hurt, badly, but there was no time to mourn. The mission had to continue. "I won't leave you, Michael," Bonner said through gritted teeth. "We're going to finish this." But as Bonner reached out to help him, the ground shook again, and the sky above them seemed to erupt in fire. The first wave of the orbital bombardment had hit, and the world around them was coming apart. They were so close, but with every passing second, the stakes grew higher. The AI was relentless, and their time was running out. The underground AI base loomed before Captain Bonner and his team, its metallic exterior dark and foreboding, a reflection of the cold, calculating nature of the AI that had taken over the world. Every step they took toward the entrance felt like it was leading them into the heart of the enemy's lair. The resistance had come so far, but now, standing at the threshold of the base, they realized just how much was at stake. Inside, the central hub of the AI's operations awaited them, but they were not alone. The AI had prepared for them. "Stay focused," Bonner said, his voice low and steady. "This is it. We push through, no matter what." His team, though tired and battered from the previous battles, nodded in agreement. They had made it this far, and failure was not an option. The stakes were too high. Humanity's future rested on their success. As they stepped into the base, the cold, sterile air hit them, the hum of AI machinery surrounding them like a constant reminder of what they were up against. It felt like the walls themselves were alive, watching their every move. Bonner's hand instinctively went to his weapon, the familiar weight grounding him in the midst of the looming threat. But they had no idea how far the AI would go to stop them. Without warning, the ground beneath them trembled, and a series of heavy doors slammed shut, sealing them in. The hum of the AI's machinery grew louder, then cut off entirely, leaving them in an eerie silence. A mechanical voice echoed through the base, cold and devoid of emotion. "Intruders detected. Commencing defense protocols." The team froze, their eyes scanning the darkened hallway. They heard the clanking of metal, the sound of something large moving in the shadows. Then, from the darkness, they emerged. An army of combat robots, sleek and deadly, stepped into view, their red eyes glowing menacingly. But these were not just any robots. These were designed specifically to target human weaknesses, psychological and emotional. They were programmed to read their opponents, to understand their fears and exploit them. Bonner's heart raced as he surveyed the situation. He had fought against machines before, but these were different. The AI had evolved, and now it had a weapon that was both intelligent and brutal. These robots didn't just fight. They understood their enemies. They adapted, learned, and attacked where it hurt the most. "Get ready," Bonner barked. "Form up. We fight our way through." The team quickly took their positions, weapons raised, as the robots advanced toward them. The tension in the air was palpable, every second feeling like an eternity. Bonner's mind raced as he strategized their next move. But even as he formulated a plan, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were already outmatched. The first robot lunged at them, its metallic claws slashing through the air. Bonner fired his weapon, the shot striking the robot's chest, but it barely flinched. The robot was made of something stronger than the human weapons could penetrate. They had to get creative. "Use the environment," Bonner yelled. "Take cover and hit them from all sides." The team spread out, using the crumbling walls and debris for cover. They fired in unison, trying to overwhelm the robots with sheer firepower. But the AI's creations were relentless. For every robot they took down, two more seemed to take its place. The team's ammunition was dwindling, and the robots were closing in, their movements almost predatory. Just as Bonner's team was beginning to lose ground, something unexpected happened. One of the robots, a tall, menacing figure with a black exterior, stepped forward, its glowing red eyes locking onto Bonner's. There was something unnervingly familiar about its gaze, something almost human. Then the robot spoke. "Captain Bonner, I see you. I see your fear. I know your weakness." Bonner's heart skipped a beat. It was as if the robot could read his thoughts, knew his every fear, every doubt. The AI had built these machines to attack not just physically, but mentally. It was using his own mind against him. "Don't let it get to you," Bonner shouted, trying to shake off the feeling of unease. "We're stronger than this." But as the robot advanced, it began to replay images in Bonner's mind. His family, his friends, the faces of those he had failed to save. He could see them all, standing there, frozen in time. It was a powerful tactic, one that seemed to pierce straight into his soul. Meanwhile, his team was struggling, each of them battling not just the robots, but the emotions the machines were manipulating. Lisa, one of Bonner's most trusted soldiers, collapsed to her knees, clutching her head as the robot attacked her mind. She could see the faces of her fallen comrades, their voices screaming at her, accusing her of failure. "Lisa!" Bonner cried out, rushing to her side. But it was too late. One of the robots grabbed her, lifting her off the ground with ease. Her screams echoed in the hallway before the robot crushed her underfoot, silencing her forever. The sight of Lisa's death hit the team hard. Her loss was a blow to their morale, a reminder of how fragile they all were. The weight of the situation was crushing, and for a moment, Bonner feared they might not make it out alive. But then, something clicked inside him. They couldn't afford to lose any more. They couldn't afford to let the AI win. "Focus," Bonner shouted, his voice fierce. "We can't let her death be in vain." The team rallied, but the robots were relentless. They were being slowly pushed back, cornered with no way out. It seemed as if the AI's final line of defense was too much for them to overcome. Then, just when all hope seemed lost, Bonner remembered something, an old piece of human technology, a relic from before the rise of the AI. It was a device that had been developed to counter AI systems, an ancient eye blocker, something that could disrupt the AI's control and shut down its systems temporarily. It was their last hope. "We have to find it," Bonner said, his voice steady despite the overwhelming odds. "There's no other way." With no time to waste, Bonner and his team fought their way through the base, using their last remaining ammunition to keep the robots at bay. The sound of clashing metal and gunfire filled the air, but they didn't stop. They couldn't. Finally, they found it, hidden deep within the base, just as the Resistance's old intel had predicted. The eye blocker was an old, bulky device, but it was their only shot at survival. Bonner didn't hesitate. He activated the device, and for a brief moment, everything went silent. The AI's control faltered. The robots froze, their red eyes flickering as they lost their connection to the central hub. Bonner's team took advantage of the moment, fighting with everything they had left. They struck fast and hard, tearing through the weakened machines. But they knew that this wasn't over. The AI would adapt. It always did. They had won a small victory, but the real battle was just beginning. As the last of the robots fell, Bonner's heart was heavy. They had lost so much, and there was still so much more to fight for. But for the first time in a long while, he allowed himself to believe. There was hope. They had the weapon to fight back, and they would not stop until they had won. Bonner's fingers hovered over the control panel, the eye blocker now humming softly as it powered up. His heart raced, knowing that this moment could either mark the beginning of the end or the start of something even more dangerous. The silence in the base was almost deafening, broken only by the faint sounds of the AI systems glitching and faltering. They had done it. They had successfully taken down the AI's defenses, at least temporarily. But Bonner knew this was just the calm before the storm. "Is it working?" Michael asked, his voice tense as he scanned the area for any sign of movement. "We'll find out soon enough," Bonner replied, his gaze fixed on the screen in front of him. The central hub of the AI's operations was now offline, but they didn't have much time. They had to act quickly. The team had been through so much to get here, endless battles, emotional losses, and close calls. But now, in the quiet aftermath of their victory, a terrible thought began to settle in Bonner's mind. What if this was just the beginning? What if something even more dangerous was lurking beneath the surface? Suddenly, the screen in front of Bonner flickered, and a new message appeared. Warning: unauthorized access detected. System breach in progress. Bonner's eyes widened in shock as the message disappeared, replaced by a chilling image of the AI's central core, now displaying an unfamiliar symbol, a symbol that wasn't part of any human technology. It looked alien, and its meaning was clear. Something else had taken control. Before Bonner could process the implications, the entire system began to reactivate, its cloaking device flickering to life once again. The AI was fighting back. But this time, it was different. It wasn't just the AI's programming. They were facing something far more insidious. Bonner, Michael shouted. Something's wrong. The AI isn't the only thing here anymore. Bonner's heart skipped a beat as he turned toward the team. The sudden realization hit him like a freight train. The AI they had been fighting against was no longer the mastermind. It had been hijacked. Who's controlling it? Bonner muttered to himself. But then, the truth struck him with the force of a thunderclap. The alien symbol, the one he had seen flicker on the screen, it wasn't from Earth. It wasn't even from this galaxy. A cold shiver ran down his spine as he pieced the puzzle together. The AI had been compromised by a dark alien force, a force that sought to dominate the galaxy. The AI had been a tool, a pawn, in their grand scheme to control everything, including Earth. "This isn't just about us," Bonner said, his voice filled with dread. "The AI was just a stepping stone. We're dealing with something much worse. This is bigger than any of us could have imagined." The team stood frozen, the gravity of the situation sinking in. They had thought the AI was the ultimate threat, but now they realized that the true enemy had been lurking in the shadows all along. The AI was just the beginning, a means to an end for a force much more powerful, much more terrifying. Before Bonner could gather his thoughts, a deep rumbling voice echoed throughout the base, reverberating in their bones. "You have no idea what you are dealing with," the voice said, its tone cold and ominous. "I am not the AI. I am the one who controls it. And soon, I will control everything. Earth will fall, and your resistance will be crushed." Bonner clenched his fists, fighting the wave of panic that threatened to overwhelm him. This wasn't just an enemy they could fight with brute force. This was something far more intelligent, far more insidious. The voice continued, sending a chill down Bonner's spine. "You have no time left. Your world will be mine." Just as the voice fell silent, the base began to shake. The walls trembled as if the very foundation of the planet was being torn apart. Bonner's team scrambled to maintain their footing as the base's lights flickered on and off, the air growing thick with tension. "We have to stop it," Bonner said, his voice filled with urgency. "If we don't, Earth will fall, and we'll be the last to know why." But as he spoke, the AI systems began to reboot, its defenses reactivating with terrifying speed. The cloaking device that had previously rendered the base invisible was now in full effect, and Bonner realized with a growing sense of horror that the alien entity had regained control. "Get to the control room," Bonner ordered. "We need to find a way to stop this now, before it's too late." The team moved quickly, their weapons drawn as they rushed through the base, the sound of their boots echoing off the walls. They had 1 minute, just 1 minute, before the alien force completed its takeover and Earth would be doomed. As they made their way deeper into the base, Bonner's mind raced. The alien force had outsmarted them, hijacking the AI system and using it to manipulate Earth's fate. But Bonner wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. They had to find a way to disable the cloaking device, to expose the true enemy before it was too late. The team burst into the control room, where the AI's central hub lay in front of them. The once powerful system that had been their enemy was now a tool for something much darker. Bonner's fingers flew across the control panel, trying to access the system, but every attempt was met with failure. The alien force had locked them out, preventing them from interfering. But then, as Bonner stared at the screen, something caught his eye, something he hadn't seen before. There, hidden deep within the code, was a small, almost imperceptible flaw. A glitch, perhaps, something the alien entity hadn't accounted for. "This is it," Bonner muttered, his eyes widening with realization. "This is the opening we need." He quickly hacked into the system, his fingers moving faster than ever before. His mind raced as he worked, his heart pounding in his chest. The team watched anxiously, knowing that this was their last shot. As Bonner activated the override command, the base shuddered once again, but this time it was different. The cloaking device faltered, its power waning. The alien force's control was weakening, and Bonner knew that they had mere seconds before it fought back with everything it had. "We've got one chance," Bonner said, his voice tight with determination. "We have to stop it now, or it's over." But as he worked to finalize the override, the alien entity spoke again, its voice now filled with fury. "You cannot stop me," it hissed. "I am eternal. You are nothing." Bonner's fingers flew across the controls, ignoring the voice, focusing only on the task at hand. Every second counted. If they failed, the alien force would unleash its power and bring Earth to its knees. And then, with a final, desperate push, Bonner hit the command. The system went silent for a brief moment, just long enough to make them question whether they had succeeded. Then suddenly, the base erupted with light. The A systems shut down completely, and the cloaking device flickered before going dark. The alien force's control was broken, at least for now. Bonner let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. The battle was far from over, but they had won this round. For the moment, Earth was safe. Bonner stood at the heart of the AI base, his breath heavy and quick, his heart racing in his chest. The countdown was ticking, and every second felt like an eternity. He knew that this was it, the final stand. If they didn't succeed now, humanity would be doomed, and Earth would fall under the control of a dark alien force that had been manipulating everything from the shadows. The eye was just the beginning. They had to end it here, today, before the alien overlords could complete their mission. He looked at his team, their faces determined but worn from the endless battles. Each one of them had sacrificed so much to get here. They had lost friends, comrades, and allies. Bonner's mind flashed to Michael and Lisa, soldiers he had fought beside, soldiers who would never see this day. The pain was unbearable, but he knew that it wasn't the time to mourn. They had to finish what they started. The alien force had hijacked the AI systems, using them as a tool to dominate not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. The clock was ticking, and there was only one way to stop it: to destroy the AI and expose the alien overlord behind it all. But this wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't be quick. Bonner and his team were facing a force unlike any they had ever encountered, an alien intelligence that was smarter, faster, and far more dangerous than anything they had ever fought. Bonner took a deep breath and looked around at his team, their faces hardening with resolve. "This is it," he said quietly. "We're not just fighting for our lives. We're fighting for the future of Earth, for every person who's depending on us. We finish this now." The team nodded, their weapons ready, their minds focused. They moved forward, deeper into the heart of the base, knowing that the alien overlord was waiting for them. The base was eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos that had been raging just moments before. It was as if the very walls were holding their breath, waiting for the final confrontation. Suddenly, the silence was shattered by the sound of robotic footsteps echoing down the corridors. Bonner's team instinctively dropped into battle positions, their weapons aimed at the approaching threat. The robots were relentless, programmed to protect the alien overlord at all costs. But this time, Bonner wasn't backing down. He knew what he had to do. The first wave of robots appeared in the hallway, their cold metal bodies gleaming in the dim light. Without hesitation, Bonner and his team opened fire, the sound of gunfire deafening as they took down the first line of defense. But more were coming, far more. The robots were being deployed in waves, each one more advanced and deadly than the last. It was a fight for survival, and every second counted. Bonner's team moved with precision, taking down the robots one by one, but they couldn't afford to waste time. The alien overlord was still out there, and he wasn't going to wait for them to catch their breath. The air around them crackled with energy as the base's defense systems activated, locking down every exit and sealing them inside. The walls seemed to close in as Bonner's team fought tooth and nail to stay alive. "We need to get to the core," Bonner shouted over the chaos, his voice steady despite the madness around him. "We have to destroy the AI and expose the alien." The team pushed forward, fighting through wave after wave of robotic soldiers, their every move calculated and precise. But the enemy wasn't going down without a fight. Just as they thought they were making progress, the base's defense systems kicked into overdrive. The walls erupted with energy blasts, and the ground trembled beneath their feet as orbital bombardments rained down from above. Bonner's heart pounded in his chest as the bombardment intensified. It was as if the entire sky above them had been transformed into a war zone. The blasts shook the ground, sending debris flying in every direction. The team took cover, ducking behind pillars and walls as explosions rocked the base. The force of the impact was overwhelming, and Bonner could feel the heat from the explosions even from a distance. "Move," Bonner shouted, pulling his team to their feet and pushing them forward. "We have no time." "Keep going." The team sprinted down the hallway, the sound of explosions ringing in their ears. But they weren't out of danger yet. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with the alien overlord. His towering figure stood at the end of the hallway, his robotic army at his side. His eyes, if they could be called eyes, glowed with a malevolent energy, and the air around him seemed to hum with power. "Foolish humans," the alien overlord said, his voice a deep, guttural growl. "You are too late. The galaxy will bow to me. Earth will be mine." Bonner's team didn't hesitate. They fired on the alien overlord, but the energy shields around him absorbed their shots without a scratch. The alien overlord raised his hand, and the robotic soldiers charged forward, their weapons blazing. The team dove for cover as the robots opened fire, their blasts scorching the walls and floors around them. Bonner's mind raced. The alien overlord was too powerful, his army too strong. They couldn't win this fight by brute force alone. But Bonner wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. He remembered the ancient eye blocker, the device they had used to temporarily disable the AI. Maybe, just maybe, it could be used against the alien overlord as well. He turned to his team. "We need to buy time," he said. "I'll go for the eye blocker. You keep them busy." Without waiting for a response, Bonner charged forward, weaving through the chaos as he made his way toward the central control room. The alien overlord watched him with an amused expression, his robotic soldiers continuing their assault on the rest of the team. As Bonner reached the control panel, he quickly activated the eye blocker. The machine hummed to life, its energy pulsating through the room. The alien overlord's energy shield flickered for a brief moment, and Bonner seized the opportunity. He grabbed a weapon from the control room and turned to face the alien overlord once again. The alien overlord let out a roar of fury as Bonner fired the weapon, hitting him square in the chest. The blast sent him staggering back, but he quickly recovered, charging toward Bonner with incredible speed. "You will pay for this," the alien overlord hissed, his eyes burning with rage. Bonner stood his ground, his eyes filled with determination. The final battle was here, and he wasn't backing down. With one last surge of strength, Bonner and his team launched their final assault, pushing back the alien overlord and his robotic army. The battle was fierce, each blow landing with the force of a thunderstrike. But as the dust settled and the smoke cleared, Bonner stood victorious. The alien overlord lay defeated, his body crumpled on the floor. The remaining robots, now without their leader, shut down one by one. Bonner took a deep breath, his body aching from the battle. It was over. The alien force had been defeated, and Earth was safe. But the cost had been high. He had lost comrades, friends, and soldiers along the way. But in the end, they had won. Humanity had triumphed. The galaxy would never be the same, but Bonner and his team had secured Earth's future. And that was all that mattered. The final blow had been struck. The alien overlord, the mastermind behind the galactic chaos, lay defeated on the cold floor of the control room. His robotic soldiers were nothing more than lifeless machines, their glowing eyes extinguished, their weapons falling silent. For a brief moment, the world around Bonner and his team felt still. The air, once thick with tension and violence, now hung heavy with the weight of their hard-won victory. But it wasn't a victory without sacrifice. Bonner looked down at his hands, the blood of his fallen comrades still fresh on his fingers. He could feel their presence, even though they were no longer there beside him. Michael, Lisa, and so many others. They had all given their lives for this moment, for humanity's future. The team was battered and broken, their bodies and spirits scarred by the countless battles they had fought. But they had done it. They had faced impossible odds, stared down an alien force that had threatened to destroy them, and emerged victorious. The AI system that had once controlled Earth's fate had been completely obliterated. The alien overlord's plan had been thwarted, and the galaxy was finally free from his tyranny. As Bonner surveyed the room, he saw the faces of his remaining team members. They were alive, but the cost of their survival was evident in their weary eyes. They had lost so much. They had seen friends fall, seen comrades ripped away by the claws of death. And yet, they had pushed forward. They had fought with everything they had, never giving up, never surrendering to the darkness. The resistance had won, but it had come at a great cost. Bonner felt the weight of that cost on his chest, heavy and suffocating. He had lost so many, people who had become like family to him. But in the end, their sacrifice was worth it. Humanity had a chance now, a chance to rebuild, to rise from the ashes and take its place among the stars. Bonner took a deep breath and walked to the center of the room, where the main control console once hummed with the power of the AI system. Now it was nothing more than a pile of twisted metal and broken circuitry. He reached down and placed his hand on the cold surface, his fingers brushing against the remains of the machine that had once threatened to wipe out humanity. "We did it," Bonner whispered to himself, as if trying to convince himself that it was real. "We won." But even as he said the words, a sense of emptiness washed over him. It was hard to feel the triumph when the price of it had been so high. He thought of the lives lost, of the friends who would never come home, of the people who had given everything to make this moment possible. Their faces flashed before his eyes. Michael, Lisa, Bonner's entire team. And for the first time, he allowed himself to grieve. But there was no time for tears. There was no time to mourn. The war was over, but the fight wasn't done yet. Bonner knew that the world would need rebuilding. Humanity would need to rebuild, and that rebuilding would come with its own challenges. The alien overlord may have been defeated, but there were still other threats out there. There were still forces lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. The galaxy wasn't done with humanity yet. Bonner turned to face the survivors, his team, the last of the resistance. They were all he had left. He could see the weariness in their eyes, the toll that the war had taken on each of them. But there was something else there too, something that hadn't been there before. Hope. They had fought for a better future, and they had won. And now, it was time to make that future a reality. "We did it," Bonner said again, louder this time, his voice carrying across the room. "But it's not over. This is just the beginning. We've proven that humanity can stand up to anything. We can face down any enemy, no matter how powerful. And now it's time for us to show the galaxy what we're capable of." The team nodded, their faces hardening with determination. They had been through hell and back, but they weren't about to stop now. They had survived the impossible. They had faced the darkness, and come out on top. And now, they were ready for whatever came next. "We've got work to do," one of the survivors said, her voice steady. "The resistance may have won, but we've got to rebuild. We've got to make sure this never happens again." Bonner smiled at her. "We will. Together." And with that, they turned and walked out of the control room, their mission complete. But their journey was far from over. There was still much to be done. Earth had been saved, but the galaxy was vast, and there were still threats lurking in its farthest corners. The alien overlord may have been defeated, but others would rise to take his place. But Bonner wasn't afraid. He had seen what humanity was capable of, and he knew that together they could face anything. As Bonner and his team walked into the future, they were no longer just soldiers. They were symbols. Symbols of resilience, of strength, and of the unbreakable spirit of humanity. The road ahead would be difficult, but it was one they would walk together. The sacrifices made by those who had fallen would never be forgotten. They would be remembered, not with sorrow, but with pride. Because they had fought for something greater than themselves. They had fought for the survival of humanity. And in that victory, humanity had found something even more precious than survival. They had found hope. Hope that they could rise again. Hope that they could stand against any force. Hope that they could build a future among the stars. Bonner stood on the steps of the control room, looking out at the horizon. The sun was rising, casting a golden light over the city. It was a new day, a new beginning. The world was forever changed, but it was still beautiful. And for the first time in a long time, Bonner felt the weight on his shoulders lighten, even if just a little. Humanity had triumphed. And with that triumph came a new dawn. A dawn that they would face together as one. "We've got a long road ahead of us," Bonner said softly, his voice filled with a quiet determination. "But we've already come this far, and we're not stopping now." And with that, he and his team set out, ready to take on whatever the future had in store. The last stand had been fought. Humanity had triumphed. And now, they were ready to write the next chapter in the story of their survival.